Hi, everyone. How are you? We are in the beginnings of Holy Week and another year. Here we are. And I don't know about you, and I may have mentioned this before, but this is like my favorite time of the year. It starts on Ash Wednesday all the way through Easter, actually through Pentecost. And I know spring and new life and all those things. I really enjoy it. I enjoy everything that there is to enjoy about Easter and Lent and the building up to it and the after. Some of my favorite readings, during this time of year, as the church gives us, are the Acts of the Apostles, and I just find them. I just, I really enjoy the stories in those Acts of the Apostles. So this is a very time of for the church in terms of learning and being parts of witnessing in our way to the passion, death and resurrection of Christ and the ascension. And it's just it's like holy doesn't even cover it. It's just so gives us our identity as well. I was saying to the kids, if it wasn't for the resurrection, we wouldn't probably be here talking about all of this. So it's very, very significant. And because this is the beginning of Holy Week, and the lesson for this week is for Sunday, for Easter, Saturday or Sunday, there's kind of a tension because you don't want to be too celebratory because you're still in the throes of Holy Week and what's yet to come. That signifies you don't want to take away from that, but at the same time, the message of hope that comes to us from Easter. So what I did with the kids yesterday, now if you remember, they're in the sixth grade. Had gone through some of the information for Holy Week. We talked about Holy Week again and what they're going to do during the different days because they're not going to be here. They're going to their mom's side of the family for Easter up in Boston. So it's not like they'll be here or we can go to church together or that kind of thing, which we do when they are here. But so they had to go. Make sure you take this with you and think about Holy Thursday and think about Good Friday and meditate on it and those kinds of things. So I decided yesterday, instead of, really getting heavy into the scriptures or in terms of this gospel um, story of Easter, I decided to show them a film. And I showed them, which I think is timeless, Jesus of Nazareth, uh, 1977. I know I'm dating myself, but I just think was a great way to introduce them to Jesus on film. And there's certainly other things out there that I would not do, but this is the one that I find is timely and for me personally, it's important. And because it does deal with the after, post resurrection, post crucifixion of Jesus, I wanted them to see that. I didn't get into them or show them the what was happening on the cross or the death. They know that they're kind of young to really, I think, wrap their head around that. They're at a sensitive age as well, and certainly for younger children, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't even show this film to younger children; they wouldn't understand it. But the part where Mary Magdalene goes to the tomb, uh, and what happens in the conversation with the Roman soldiers and all that, and the story. So I showed it from like it's a 6 hour film. So I showed it from like the 6th hour and 1 minute into it kind of thing, and we watched the rest of it for about 45 minutes till it ended. And after we watched it, I had them discuss certain things, what jumped up at them, what questions might they have because of it. And the first thing they said, it was really good to see people playing this part because it made it real for them. So that's a good thing. So you have to keep that in mind when we do these sorts of things. Probably for younger children, I would use maybe more of an animated um, thing to do. But they were, we talked about the resurrection. We talked about why Roman soldiers, what were they doing there? So we talked about the Roman government got into Pontius Pilate a little bit, why was it a Roman who was there, helping to condemn Jesus to death? So it turned out to be a very interesting conversation. And just to get, I love Anne Bancroft, who plays Mary Magdalene in this, and she's very, very, it's very dramatic and it's very a pro-feminine woman because she's saying you don't believe what I'm telling you. And here she is, she's as we know her today as the apostles of the apostles. So that's what I did with them basically. Um, and it was they liked it. And once in a while, I think it's a good idea to show things on film for them to either reinforce what you're doing in the lesson or just to be the learning tool at that point. But certainly we went over it, and they have, of course, we're going to be meeting next week, which I was kind of surprised. I didn't know if they'd wanted to, but they have off on Monday. So they said, let's meet, because, now we're coming down the end. We're coming to the end. It's almost May. Now they're into spring sports, and we want to do this. So I will be meeting with them next week. So I will be doing a recording next week as well. But one of the interesting things I did, I thought, just in case, maybe things, won't, maybe we're going to hit a slow spot. How can you hit a slow spot with the resurrection and Easter? I decided to bring the old-fashioned resurrection eggs. I probably showed them these to you before. Let's see, this way. There you go. And it's the story of Holy Week. And the neat thing about it is that, the children, it gives you instructions and what to read. They can open them up, and each egg symbolizes something that happened during Holy Week. So you'll have a crown of thorns. You'll have um, pieces of, it looks what would represent 30 pieces of silver, things like that. But they remember doing this when they were younger. And even though they're older, that I know they would have liked to have done it again, but because we had a time to be careful of, and I wanted them to see the movie. Just for them, it brought back really nice memories. So if you have younger children, certainly, I would recommend this, because younger children are still into magical thinking, and to try to explain to them this whole story and Jesus rising from the dead, and that's just way too complicated for a younger mind. So something like this, eggs, that's simple, that they can relate to, um, helps them to understand it. And at this point, it's still Jesus is our friend, and Jesus will always be with us. Uh, Even though some things happen, and they can certainly relate, maybe a relative who's passed, but to know that Jesus loves us, and that, you know, Jesus does come back until he goes to the Father. So uh, it's very theological, obviously, and it's very, central to our faith tradition. But I think trying to, not that you want to simplify it, but keep it simple for the children, the younger children. And of course, they're still like maybe into the Easter Bunny, or they're still into those kinds of things. But to emphasize other parts of Holy Week with them, as it's written out in the weeklies. So, but if you wanted a little extra, as I said, you can have, use those eggs. You can get them on Amazon, I'm sure. They're called resurrection eggs. So that was yesterday. And with the children, they're ready for Easter. And actually Sunday they came over and we baked Easter cookies. So some of the older ones were there just to be there. I think they were actually watching the basketball games, March Madness. But it was just nice to have them around. And we always get into some kind of a conversation, a theological discussion. I think they're testing me. I think that's what they do. Sometimes I think they test me. That's okay. Uh, and I can tell them where, if I don't know the answer, where to look it up, kind of thing. But it's always discussion. It's always very interesting to see where they are and with their minds and where their faith is at the age of 18, 19. So that was what happened this weekend. That's what happened yesterday for our lesson. Have a blessed Holy Week. And I wish you all a very happy Easter as we soak in, what this is about, and that, Jesus, our Jesus, what he went through. But here we are today, still believing. And one of my grandsons says, sometimes, Grandma, it's hard. I'm tempted not to believe, but I have to believe something's true if it's lasted for over 2,000 years. I said, yeah, there you go. So let's rejoice with all those who we will be with to celebrate. And I will be back next week. Take care. Happy Easter.